There's no single definite answer. There's no single conclusion. There's no single moment of that's it. This is the end of the road. Because there is no end to the road. So from a non-dual perspective, the integrated non-duality is recognition of openness, of the present aliveness. The self is here. It is open. It can take any shape, any form. It can go deeper and deeper and deeper, infinitely deeper. In the non-dual approach, is the non-dual approach is for those who are more mature, who already have a good experience in meditation, who have already experienced various meditative practices, even samadhi states, these blissful states, and so on. So when people are at that stage, when they have tasted spirituality quite well, including high experiences and deep experiences, and being blissed out for a day or two or three or so, and coming back and seeing things go on, life is here, things are moving, happening. So at that point, a person is truly ready for non-dual inquiry. If a person approaches non-dual inquiry with a philosophical attitude, forget about it. Better do something else. Better, go to the meditation classes and learn the basics, do the basics. Non-duality is not about philosophical contemplations. It is, in essence, it is inquiry deeper within, but the inquiry is not philosophical. It is the inquiry, it is a deep dive within your inner vehicles of consciousness, not the mind, inner vehicles of consciousness. So this is the ripened time to use inquiry as a reflection, to see what is here, what is truly here, to recognize the true nature of existence, the true nature of the self. So if one approaches non-duality from a mental, philosophical perspective, that's not the thing, not the right time. And I met many people who got really stuck in philosophical stage, and then they come to me and we see that they were totally not ready for the real non-duality, So then we have other part of spiritual playground, which has to do with experiences. And people can get those experiences, with various meditations, yogic practices, breathwork practices, and they can experience and see the subtle planes. They can see other densities, dimensions, and they are really here. And the scientists, also have found that there are many layers making up the universe like a cake, and it has intelligence in it. So at the same time, every major world religion recognizes higher beings, Christianity, angels, archangels, and Hindu is the most elaborate tradition, having identified over 300,000 deities, and Buddhist as well, and so on and so on and so on. So there's a global recognition of these planes of existence. And I would fully endorse Buddha because he had, um, we can say, mastered both aspects: the Advaita, the non-dual perspective of enlightenment, as well as a very clear insight into the nature of the universe, the existence, different planes of densities and subtle realms. So he has mastered both, um, and thus, he brought a vast amount of insight, knowledge, um, into explanation of it all. He's been teaching for 40 years. Buddha was teaching for 40 years, and upon his passing away, or simply changing the form, or dropping the form, it is known that he, with his last breath, he made many of the monks enlightened as well. So he shared his samadhi enlightenment. So we can recognize that the two paths of non-duality and the subtle planes of existence are not really two paths. Yes, because the universe is one that we are in. Talking about this one from the our perspective, there might be more universes as well. However, there is one source, one self, this universe, many other universes. They have their structure, they have their way. So in an early stage of non-duality, a person is taught of a practice of negation. It is a very helpful practice, but at the same time, it's meant to be done in the middle way approach, as a means of disidentifying, from the body, saying, I have the body, but I'm not the body. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I have feelings, but I'm not my feelings. I feel energies, or I have energies, but I'm not the energies only. So this way, it is a healthy disidentification or negation, which allows one to disattach and disidentify, and thus to experience more openness. That is the purpose of negation practice. If a person or even a teacher is not so mature in non-duality, they would go all absolute, so to speak. They would go, there is no wall, there is no me, there is no you, there is nothing. And it has a certain flavor of something is not so right about this person. Something is it lacks aliveness. Yeah, you can see that there are some people and even some teachers or younger, much less experienced teachers, who go for know this, know that, know this, know that, and I've seen so much troublemaking in that approach, because usually they would attract also students who approach it in a mental way. And imagine somebody approaching a non-dual teacher of know this, know that from a mental perspective. It can cause a mental breakdown, total confusion, total lostness. And that is not healthy at all. Yeah, to create a traumatic experience of a mental breakdown. Yeah, there is a better way to help someone. There is a way to go beyond the mind, but not breaking one's psychology and making another traumatic experience. Yeah, so therefore, the non-duality is best approached with a certain maturity. Yeah, once you already know how to meditate, once you already know yourself and how to manage your emotions, your different states of the mind and meditative states, and thus that is a ripened time for a non-dual approach. Now there are a higher level non-duality, and some of these teachers, for example, are mature teachers such as Ramana Maharshi and Sargadanta Maharaj, and they, come forward with these higher terms of the absolute, and they are completely right, and they're completely well expressed uh, in the context in the context of their talk, in the context of the meeting with the students who are capable of receiving this directness. Yes, because it's a very direct approach. It's a piercing approach, and it is addressed to the students who are capable to receive this directness. And therefore, we've known their videos and some of their books. And then again, I see, the students who are barely scratching their philosophical approach. They get a recommendation to check out, this teacher of non-duality, and again, they're not ready for it. It's way too early to study. In a primary school, you should not study a university degree complex subjects. Even if you're very interested, oh, I really want to dig into it, you're just not ready for it. It's not the right time. It's not helpful in a way. It's not helpful. So we will come to recognize that there are many teachers, many gurus, and there's a saying that when you're ready, you will meet the right teacher. Yeah, when you're ready, you're gonna meet the right teacher. If you just play with curiosity and not following your true path, your intuition, and you just want to play around because now it's so easily accessible. The absolute integrated non-duality is accessible for anybody with a few clicks on the internet, and that's also quite dangerous. So this is why throughout the ages, the teachers would have lineages. They would give the teachings to those students who are ready. Yeah, so this is how they would initiate, give teachings, and allow students to grow according to their capacity to receive. And that has been most stable way. But now with the technology, many things have shifted and changed, and everything is available instantly. Yeah, so it's very important to evaluate yourself, to feel into, to see, especially when it comes to non-duality. If you feel it helps you, there's a very easy way to check it. If you feel it helps you and makes things more clear, then that is good. But if you feel you have stumbled upon and it makes you much more confused, then you should then change your focus. Yeah, because you need to recognize that the truth is like a samurai sword. When it cuts all. It cuts both ways. Yeah, and if you stumble upon the truth that for which you are ready, then it's a nice and lovely peeling off. Yeah, you peel off. But if you stumble upon an angry samurai and he chops your head off, that's not a good experience at all. Yeah, so non-duality best to be approached when a person is ready for it. Yeah, because that samurai sword is very, very sharp. And this is the beauty of jnana yoga, of the non-dual approach. It's a very sharp truth, but it's meant to cut at the place and level of more like as a peeling off effect, and not to cause the drastic psychological and then traumatic shifts in a person's psyche. So the same way with dimensions, with subtle planes of existence. If if a higher being, for example, Helios. Helios is a being of the sun or sun god. Sun is his body, basically. So if Helios would put his focus upon you, he would burn you on spot to ashes. Because his vibration is so high that his lower body is the manifestation of the sun. Yeah, so this is a being called Helios. Yeah, so if he would look upon you from his multi-plane view, if he would put all his focus on you, you would burn to ashes instantly. Yeah, so that's how high his vibration is. So also that means that perhaps you should meet him in some other way at the right time. Yes. So that's the same thing. When we come to look at multi-planes and subtle realms, that's where humbleness can arise. That's where we can recognize that there are beings who are way, way, way more advanced than any person who has ever walked on earth, even than any guru who has ever taught on earth. Yes, because there are beings whose vibrations are so high. As I said, Helios is our sun. Yeah, his physical body is the sun. The same way Sanat Kumara is His body is the earth. That is his body, the earth. Yes, and then we have other star systems. There are other suns 4,000 times bigger than our sun. Our galaxy is not the biggest in the universe, and the whole galaxy is a being. And then there are clusters of galaxies which are also governed by other beings. And the whole universe is a being who has projected like itself within into smaller and smaller and smaller parts, just the same way like this human body that we carry, which is composed of different components of the eyes and the ears and the arms and fingers, and even those major components of your physical form are made of smaller components, and some of the smallest components are the cells. Yeah, so basically this human form is about 50 trillion cells dancing together like Leela in a perfect synchronicity and harmony to create this appearance of a physical form. And when somebody asks you how you doing, how you feeling, you say, oh, I feel fine, I feel okay. That means that all your 50 trillion cells are dancing in perfect synchronicity and harmony for your primitive mind to say that I am okay. Yeah, so it's beautiful. It's just beautiful how things are. When we look deeper, it's just so much beauty arises. We can look into deeper and more subtle planes of existence, and we see that everything is connected. Everything is connected. So, do these different planes of existence exist? Well, that's what all the major world religions and traditions have been talking about for thousands of years. So there should be there. Scientists have found, many different layers of the structure of matter. And they say, okay, matter is an appearance. And they say there is no matter as such. It's all energy. And the energy is made of atoms. And the atoms are made of electron, proton, neutron, and even those are made of smaller and smaller parts, which they call quarks. And then at the very bottom there is the God molecule. So when the CERN Hadron Collider found what they call the Higgs boson, it's a name of the scientist, but what they found is not his name. They found the molecule of God. The primal molecule from which all other things are created. So they found God in a way, yeah, at that degree that they could penetrate deeper into the structure, because from a single molecule of God, there was a Big Bang explosion, and the universe was created. And this is in a more intermediary way. This is how the nuclear reactors are working. They're smashing the atoms, and it produces so much energy that it can power up a whole city for a while. Yeah, it's amazing. So there's more and more energy as we go into smaller and smaller components of creation. Paradoxically, they don't get smaller. The energy becomes bigger. Yeah, something to ponder upon. So we can confirm that major world religions have seen subtle planes, scientists have discovered molecules of that make up everything. And of course, teachers and gurus and psychics have been seeing many, many things, how they are. Now, in a general model, in a very general model, we say there are 12 dimensions. But that model is more like a very, very generic model. Every dimension has so many frequencies within them. We can witness that even here on Earth, because, so to speak, we're all walking on the 3D Earth as the 3D bodies, but the experience can be so different for all of these 3D bodies walking together. I remember one satsang that we had, and then we were sitting on a couch, and so there we are. We're sitting together on a couch. There is me, and two more people, and so to speak, myself and my body. I have my own experience, which is light, bliss, openness, and so on. And then there is another person who is kind of on the midway, in this lovely inner love stage, and he's like, oh, there's so much love, it's so nice. And then there's another person sitting on the same couch who has gone through some rough time. and they're and feeling very kind of processing some heavy stuff. And here we go, we're sitting on the same couch. Such a different dimensions, such a different experiences, sitting on the same couch. So what we can recognize is that even if we are meeting in 3D, so to speak, there can be such a vast variation of consciousness levels and vibrational experiences. And these differences keep increasing as we go into higher and higher densities, like 4D, 5D, and so on. So they have broader and broader spectrum of vibrations. We know that there are many teachers and gurus who are so different. Some of them can easily explain things, how things work on those subtle planes, and those who kind of take a more non-dual approach, the more mature beings, like Nisargadatta Maharaj or Papaji or Ramana, they, when you look at them, they have this high vibration, so to speak. It's not only that they're talking about the self, the walled existence in absolute terms, which is a sharp truth, but they can back it up by their own vibration. So if you meet a teacher who can speak in a non-dual way, but transmit the energy that can lift you up beyond the mental conditioning, well, that means that's a real deal. Yeah, but if you're meeting somebody who speaks, there's no this, no that, no this, no that, but there's no energy in them either. So where are they then? Where are they? Where is this person then? Somewhere in between, probably, in some kind of empty space, which is negating all of it, and that's a midpoint. That is not a full consciousness. That's a midpoint. So that's a good thing to reflect upon. that you know at um, a guru or a teacher has a certain transmission, a certain radiance. They hold a certain light that they can shine even without talk, even without speaking. So this is why Ramana, he wasn't so much outspoken, um, but also his personality was more like that too. So he, uh, you know, at the same time he was at Arunachala. It already does half of the job for other people to sit and meditate. So if he was sitting in New York in an apartment, probably people would not be so serene and quiet and easily fall into meditation. So the environment as well has a big effect on people's you know receptivity of that vibration, and that the teacher can transmit. So India, and especially some of these special spots like Arunachala and so on, the area is already like you can just get blissed out just by being there, and not necessarily meeting anyone. And I can confirm that because we've been there, and when I visited Tiruvannamalai, I can see a perimeter. There is a certain perimeter of few kilometers around the mountain, which is basically a crystalline area where the mountain is beaming that crystalline energy. And as you go kind of more into it and closer to the mountain, you get more and more kind of elevated of that high vibrational area. However, having said that, it doesn't mean that you should book your ticket and you're gonna be enlightened just by going there and sitting there, because we took a tuk-tuk, or they call it rickshaw, I forgot, in India, and we took this transportation, and we went to the old town, and guess what, the people are people. They're doing their business, they're making their usual chaos and noise, and sometimes arguing at each other, sometimes shouting. They don't seem to be very realized or enlightened, the majority of local inhabitants, and because even though they're like sinking in this high vibrational space, but their mind is still conditioned, it's still rigid. So if they don't do meditation and practice, you know even though there is this high vibration, it's more like a cooking in the oven. Yeah, they're cooking in the oven of high vibration, but their identity, their mind is still rigid, and thus they're not so enlightened after all, the regular Indian, so to speak. But those who have more openness, who can work with vibrations and with themselves, they would experience something beautiful. And again, each place, like Arunachala, has a certain vibration of this kind of burning fire and stillness. And then if you go, for example, to Rishikesh, it has a totally different vibration, totally different. It's very kind of alive, it's moving. The Ganga is moving, and the altitude of the Himalayas is already elevated. So you feel like an elevated movement, flow of energy. And while in Arunachala, you would kind of sit and burn, in the stillness. So different places attract different people with different energy combinations, energy systems to, support them. So there are so many areas on Earth with different energy vibrations. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, looking at Earth and different areas on Earth, we can see that they have different levels of vibrations. Yeah, we've traveled quite extensively and yeah, in those high energy spots across Asia, India, Europe, and so on. Even Americas a bit. So yeah, we can see the different vibrational experience. So essentially, a real non-dual teacher would have a real vibration behind him to back it up. Yeah, and that's why he doesn't need to um, do much to help another, because the key job is happening through transmission, through vibration, and the inquiry is just pointing to the core of identity as a way to peel it off. But then a teacher supports immediately a student with a higher vibration to allow them to comfortably to be elevated to a higher level of consciousness. So this is what happens. So essentially, a real non-dual teacher guru is working very skillfully with energy as well. Very skillfully working with energy, and very skillfully can see through the mind, can see through emotions, can see through energies. Yeah, it's a skillful direct seeing. It means that they have done their job to see through things, to see how energy works, how these different layers work. Yeah, and thus they can use a technique of inquiry in a skillful way. As Buddha would say, the right thing at the right time in the right way. Yeah, so a, a non a real deal non-dual teacher would use it very skillfully. Yeah, so that's one of the qualities that we're of inquiry. And at the same time, those beings um, who work more elaborately with the subtle planes and energies and dimensions, they would also recognize and be able to explain more elaborately, about those subtle planes. However, again, how would you notice who is a good teacher or guru focusing on the subtle planes? Is the one who is not lost in them, first of all. The one who is not lost in those subtle planes, the one who is not like on the cloud and like not being able to relate to anybody, or saying there's only angels, and there's only this and on or only that, and again we hear the same language, only this, only that. And speaking of these kind of other planes of existence, again in a similar way of being lost in them. So a, a teacher who can work with subtle planes would have a certain groundedness as well, a certain groundedness to be here, to be present, to be able to hear what you're saying, to be present. At the same time, being able to see, perceive, and to work and skillfully work with those higher planes of existence and energies. And to see, okay, so it seems that, your energy is here, you're connected to this and this and that. And if we do this, you can have an opening and so on. But the point is for you not to get overly mentalized and overly excited and and for you to get lost in those planes of existence, because that's the easy thing to do, to get, lost somewhere and camp somewhere and so on. And the more difficult part is to, perceive or sense those subtle planes, but to be fully here and fully available and capable, and to skillfully navigate through them. Yeah, so those teachers who can do this skillfully, again, are very, very few. And there are many teachers who, just play around and, oh, let's do the Kundalini stuff, let's awaken your Kundalini, and let me give you this experience, and, meditate on this, go high, and so on. So there are many um, not so experienced teachers who play around with energies, and then there is tantra, let's connect and see what happens. Yeah. Yes, and let's activate those sexy vibrations, and experience the Shiva bliss. And oh my goodness, how many I met of them, and then you find them, a couple of weeks later, going through rough challenges and patches, and diving into their subconsciousness and unconsciousness and getting lost equally much there too. And then, of course, there are all sorts of medicines and this and that. So there's a lot of stuff, in so many different ways. And I met many shamans who are like, yeah, more yahe, which means ayahuasca in Native American. More yahe, the better, take more, be a man, and then you see that man, on the grass, throwing out and being not a man anymore. So it's another, shamanic games that some, shamans play, for power and, ego and pleasure and, I don't know, whatever purpose. And then, getting some visions, and the more visions, the better. It's like watching television. The more you watch television, the better. It makes you tired, isn't it, at the end of the day? So, yeah, there are a lot of things. And today I wanted to bring more clarity of these, we can say, two ways. Okay, let's just focus one more path, the devotion, the devotional path. So, I've been to, and witnessed the Hare Krishna movement, which is one of the most beautiful movements. And then Ananda Marga, Bhavanam, Kevalam, and Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then, of course, Om Namah Shivaya, and so on. So and there are different movements of mantras and chanting and devotional path. And they can bring you to an elevated state, and you can get yourself high up, quite nicely. It's just that it's not so sustainable. So if we look at, let's say, Krishnaism, yes, they do have the Hare Krishna, bhajans and dances, and we've been to Vrindavan. We had so much fun, dancing for hours. It was fun, and beautiful, and a lot of nice and high vibes. And then you can notice that there are other, monks and nuns, however they call them. They're doing their practice. They're doing their more integrative practice, and they're, doing their beads, and they're studying very much. They are studying Bhagavad Gita and all related interpretations and texts. They have a big library to study, and they're working on it, not only just dancing, so there's a lot of work behind going on, and this is necessary, and that is more of a complete picture. And there are many, people who just notice one part. Oh, just, let's dance and chant, and they only see that part, but they don't see the hard work before that and after that. So they don't see the full picture, and therefore then they get disillusioned that spirituality is all that, and there is no hard work afterwards or before that. Well, there is, and therefore you need to dive a bit deeper, and get to know it more, because the path of the heart is it also is a lot of healing. It's a lot of also studying and scriptures and chants, and there's a lot more behind it than the beautiful songs. So that is more integrative approach. So as we look at that, today we kind of explore these three different traditions, the non-dual tradition, and then the more subtle plane tradition, which then breaks down into so many other traditions, and the path of the devotion as a third key tradition, so to speak. We can see that they merge together at some point. They relate with each other in many ways, and 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 it's all about openness to experience something different, something more, and not getting lost into no this, no that, or only this, or only angels, or only that. Yeah, so we see that people in the intermediate steps can get, either absorbed in their heads, not this, not that, or just dances, or just, this plane, this piece, this mountain and hill, or only crystals, or only, those beings, or not the other beings, and so on. So there is a more complete picture. I want to say that in none of those paths we should become extremists. Just like there is only Christian God, or only Allah, or only Buddha, the same way in spiritual traditions, we should not become spiritual extremists, or spiritual closed-minded, one track, view. There is everything, to be honest. There is everything, and this everything is endless. It is endless, and endless, and endless, and endless. And beyond this bliss, there is more ecstasy. And beyond this ecstasy, there is more peace. And beyond that peace, there is more love. And beyond that love, there is more light. And beyond that light, there is more void. And beyond that void, there is more bliss again on a higher vibration. And beyond that, there is another thing, and another thing, and another thing. And it's just endless and endless and endless. And a true teacher would know that. A true teacher never says, that's it. There's nothing more than that. There is always more. If you're tired of this universe, guess what? There is another one, and another one, and another one. There's a universe where time goes forward. There's another universe where time goes backwards. Literally, and I mean that. They go back in time. And the scientists already have found that there's an alternate universe, but time goes backwards. And the universe is not expanding, it is contracting. And so there is another universe where the energy is made differently. And maybe there's a universe which is totally 2D, flat, like those old computer games. And there's another universe which is 100D, and you can't even grasp it. Yeah, so it's really endless and endless and endless. The amount of vibrations is endless. The amount of possible experience is endless. And all you can do is be open. Be open and see what is here. And be open to see that perhaps you don't see everything. Be open to see that perhaps there's more that what you can handle, or more than what I can handle. And perhaps there is more and more and more and more. And thus that is the most amazing, wondrous, and beautiful thing. Yes. So that is a true recognition of the source, the self, that it's truly infinite. It's infinite, it's endless. And even this one self is not the only one in the non-dual extremism. There is just the same way we would say there is just Allah. No other than Allah. And then you say, come on, just can you be a bit more open than that, because Christians are saying something else and Buddha is saying something else. So let's just be open that the self can be in any possible way. And it's not the only that way, it's open way. So therefore, this recognition is more complete in a view that it's endlessly infinite, endlessly open. If this universe is finite, which is growing, it is finite. It has its space, it has its perimeter, it's growing. But then there's other universe, and there's the sea of the universes, and so on and so on and so on. So it's truly, truly endless. So although we looked at a few ways of growing spiritually and a few ways that you may approach things, but really there is endless ways of approach things and see things and grow.